Frank Saravelli says the Flames are interested in JJ Peterka. And Marco Rossi, by the way, with the Minnesota Wild, who maybe he gets moved from Minnesota. That's a player that I know a lot of Sabres fans wanted the Sabres to draft when they drafted Jack Quinn. Mm-hmm. So Marco Rossi could be moved from Minnesota. But Peterka and the Flames, which...
it seems like a weird fit to me. But if you think he's gettable, then if I were them, I would make the call.
The Rangers traded Chris Kreider and Josh. We were talking in one of the breaks. Josh said that there's a chatter out there. The Rangers are kind of loading up for an offer sheet. Now, who that could be for, I don't know. They don't have their second-round pick, so they can't do the one that's in the range of 2 firsts, a second, and a third.
No, like if there was a Peterka offer sheet, around what number would you expect that to come in at? Like millions of dollars.
I would expect it to come in at 8.5.
8.5?
If you're going to go up, right? If you're going to bump his money beyond where he's proven, but with a cap that's actually moving up, I think you think that's about right?
I think that's pretty good.
Okay.
And there are only in the offer sheet compensation between 7.02 and 9.3.
Okay. Then in that case, I would say they'll go to 9.2.
Okay, because in that range, there are only 13 teams that have the picks that can make that offer sheet. 13 out of 32. So there's that. Calgary, by the way, not one of them. The Rangers, not actually. Calgary is one of them. The Rangers are not one of them. But the Rangers, who were the team that were rumored to even be getting close to acquiring him at the deadline, the Rangers don't have the ability to do anything between 7.02 and 11.7. So they could, if he had the desire to go to New York, they could say, hey, let's offer sheet you at 7 even.
Yeah.
But are the Sabres going to move? That's 1 first and 1 third to do that.
Yeah.
You want a late first round pick?
Let me tell you the way they could do that. You offer sheet him to the exact date to the timeline of his unrestricted free agency.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote about this a while back. If a team wanted to offer sheet off Austin Matthews when the time was coming, like a player like Matthews, Eichel, a top guy, you have that guy's rights, and ideally you sign him for the entry-level deal and then you extend him for 8 years. You get him for 11, and you buy up years of unrestricted free agency.
Right.
But if your offer sheet, if you're confident, this guy wants to play here, this will be his home, we're just going to offer sheet him right to the moment of unrestricted free agency because that team knows he's going to leave and they'll be afraid of losing him for nothing. And now I'm committing for, 4 years. 4 years is not nothing.
That's a long time, though, to be afraid of losing a guy for nothing.
For sure. But if you had a player like, again, Peterka doesn't quite rise to the caliber of this kind of player.
He had to be like a superstar.
Right. But if you wanted to try that, you would say, think about the offer sheet that, was it Kotkaniemi got? It was 1 year? It was
1 year.
1 year.
1 year.
And the idea was this explodes his salary in the short term. Ooh, I don't know what we want to do about this. Mm-hmm. Then, it's just... There are ways to really play with it. And that's the only way I could probably find a way for them to offer him 7 and not have it be matched.
Right, because if I'm the Sabres, I'm thinking, wait a minute, I'm going to let him go there at that number. Sure, like the 4 year thing and the UFA stuff. I'm going to let him go to you for that and just get a first round pick and a third round pick. He's an asset. Yeah. I would rather match the offer sheet, even if I knew he doesn't want to be here. I'd still match it and say, all right, well, I've got time, I've got leverage. If you really want it out, I'll work with you on a trade after I match this. But I am not trading you for a first and a third.
Right.
A late first and a third, even probably. I'm not doing that. You're gonna play here until I get the right package. Because I got 4 years of that.
I would agree.
But that is, from my standpoint, it's a very fantasy-esque type of, if he's a person, you would have to have a guy in the locker room that you might know doesn't want to be here. Would you think that that's good? You might not want that. But I still wouldn't be bullied into, all right, well, I'm going to give him away for a first and a third because I'm afraid he's going to leave me in 4 years. I just wouldn't do that if I were Kevin Adams.
No, I probably wouldn't either. I wouldn't worry about it. I think it drives home that the Rangers probably can't offer sheet him.
Is the more smoke there is, though, make it more believable that he is going to be moved this offseason?
I told you months ago, someone that I trust would know indicated to me that Peterka might not be a long-term guy here.
But what is long-term? Because when I hear that, I think, he's not a 7-year guy, but
that he wants to go somewhere else. That he might that whatever, just it might not be the fit. He might not be one of their guys. And there's endless smoke about him. Friedman the other day said the Sabres don't want to trade him. They don't want to do that. That doesn't mean they won't do it, but they don't want to do it. That was what Friedman said earlier this week. So they might just feel, I mean, we've gotten into this about Tuck and what is Tuck going to do? His contract is up at the end of the year. If he leaves, you've got a couple guys in Tage and Dahlin and like Samuelson that's locked in. I mean, who knows if they buy him out. You've got some players that are locked in. Josh Norris is locked in for a lot.
He is.
Forgetting about him.
Well, also, this would, I guess, be different than, though, if Friedman is saying they don't want to trade him, that says they like him as being a part of the team, I would think.
Or they think he's valuable.
Or he's valuable.
They're just like, no, you're good. We'd like to keep you. But if, again, we watched the Stanley Cup final. We watched the playoffs. Players that they would have known are good that want to go. All right, I guess I'll do what I can for you.
Because there's also, I mean, why did he would be a super version of this, I think, but why did they buy out Skinner last year? Didn't they buy out Skinner because he doesn't play the type of style of hockey that they wanted to play?
No, they bought him out.
That's what they talked about.
They bought him out to save $14 million. That's what I always thought. I thought they bought him out to save actual dollars.
That's right, but if he was an all-around good hockey player, were they going to buy him out?
Okay, sure, probably not.
Because the goal scoring can come down a little bit. It is worth mentioning that he scored 3 fewer goals in that down year for him than what Peterka scored. But sure, okay, right. But Skinner goes, and one thing that was cited was he's not going to play the style that they're going to want to play with Lindy Ruff. How do they want to play? And does Peterka fit to that? Because from watching him, or if you look at some of the numbers on it, he's a 96th percentile overall offensive player, and he's the 2nd percentile defensively. And your eyes would tell you the same thing. There's nothing going on in his own end. And there are turnovers sometimes, and he's not one that's reliable at 2 ends of the ice. He's a smaller player, so he's not really giving you anything physically. So I'm not saying he's not valuable. The offense way overrates any of those deficiencies. But when do they think, hey, we need a little bit of a shift here in the way we play, and one way to do that would be, all right, if we don't think there's a long-term relationship here with this guy anyway, let's see if we could take that asset and spin it into something that is a more all-around game. I'm working hard to get to them thinking it's a good idea, but they couldn't they? The article from the other day about teams will take the wrong lessons from the Florida Panthers. A wrong lesson you could take is I don't want a guy like JJ Peterka. I need a guy with attitude, that's bigger, that can play in his own end, versus a one-dimensional offensive player. That would be the wrong lesson, but someone's going to take that lesson, and it could be them.
It also might be a move they were going to make regardless of a lesson from Florida, but he's a dynamite player. He's a dynamite young player. I mean, he's gone from, 2nd-round pick to one of my favorite players on the team to watch.
Yep.
And last year was a little, less impressive, but still pretty good for the age that he is. And, every time we talk about him, we get people to write in, it's why are we talking about trading this guy? And the answer is because everybody else seems to be. It's just tons of smoke. And I know sometimes if a trade doesn't happen, your response could be, oh, I guess that was all nonsense. It's not nonsense. It's definitely out there, whether teams are sniffing, and every one of these reports might lead to another team calling and saying, what's going on there? You going to trade that guy?
Yeah.
Kevin Adams might say no. What does Jarmo think of him?
What does Jarmo think of him?
What does Jarmo think about JJ Peterka? Do I got to figure that out too?
Quickly, I did like his season last year more than the previous season.
Yeah.
It was a better all-around game. I saw him making passes that he had never even tried before. I thought he was getting a little too easy to defend with his shot. He would just come in, stick handle, toe drag, shot. Was the only thing he was doing in that last year under Granato. He shot the puck 60-something fewer times last season and had the same amount of goals. Like, his shooting percentage actually went up by more than 3%, and he doubled his assist total. So, even though he didn't score as much as maybe you hoped, and it went down by 1, I mean, he had the points to back it up. Like, I think he was a better all-around offensive player than he was the year before.